It's been moving fast, Owen, on Juul recently, and I see 3 or 4 potential flashpoints. This latest nicotine study was concerning to me. It was in mice, obviously. Is that on your radar screen for Juul or not yet?
I do think that's a bit of a scare story. I mean, if you look at the study in detail, there are a number of flaws there. I mean, the amount of vapor they give these mice, if you actually convert that
much
into an adult, I mean, it's the equivalent of taking around 6,000 milligrams a week. I mean,
kind of weird, though, that you take the nicotine out and saw no increased incidence in cancer whatsoever. I mean, is that a new linkage between nicotine as a possible carcinogen?
Possibly. I mean, I wouldn't really like to comment on the health claims because I'm not that in depth with it. But I mean, what we do know from what we have with cigarettes, the amount of carcinogens within vapor versus cigarettes, over 95% reduced.
Okay, so that's great. In the deaths so far, it hasn't been with. It's sort of been bootleg versions of the delivery system, and there's oil involved. It's not just normal Juul vaping, right? That shouldn't be something that knocks 50% off the market cap of or valuation of the company.
Well, I think right now, I mean, if you look at that 24 billion, it was just referenced. I mean, if you do the maths on that, which I looked at quickly, it implies that Juul lose around 30% of their volumes. I mean, that does not seem unreasonable. I mean, if you assume that the FDA implement the removal of flavours now, they don't remove Juul altogether, which is a risk still, then you've got to assume a number of those users just switch over to tobacco. They're not going to quit altogether. So a 30% loss in their volumes, I think that's not unreasonable for now.
It seems to me like it's almost light. Isn't it 80% of their sales right now come from those flavoured versions that might be removed?
But I mean, are those 80% of people using those? Are they just going to quit and leave the category? So I'd assume some of them just switch into the tobacco flavour.
And with the competition, what's the new stuff? What is it that Philip Morris and Altria are developing? I forget.
Yeah, the heat not burn IQOS. I mean, the jury's still out on that. I mean, markets in the developed world in Europe where IQOS, heated tobacco, has gone up against an established reduced risk market, struggle to get traction. You also need to consider nicotine strength levels in the US. I mean, average nicotine strength on cigarettes is around 1.1 milligrams. So heated tobacco may not work in this market like it does in Japan, where average nicotine strengths are around 0.5.
Is Altria kicking itself for this investment? I mean, every company tries to look at the potential disruptors coming along and wants to get a piece of that. Did they pay too high a price for something that was too early on?
My personal view, I mean, I think kind of the signs were there in terms of youth usage when they looked at this deal. I mean, you look at some of the Altria comments even before they bought Juul, and they'd even raised these issues themselves. I think it was, they know they've got around 50% cigarette share in the US market. They felt a lot of pressure, and I think they were panicked, and therefore they needed exposure to that vapor segment because their own offering at the time wasn't very strong.
So Juul's valuation right now, as low as it's going to get, or?
Well, I mean, there's still a possibility with the updated FDA compliance policy, which is due before the end of October. They remove all Juul products. If they don't, and it's just all flavours, then the valuation right now of around 24 billion does not seem unreasonable. And what we need to remember as well, it's very much tied to the US still. I mean, the international opportunity is very, very small, and we think they'll actually struggle internationally. I mean, the technology is not good enough in somewhere like Europe, where you have 2% nicotine restrictions. And then in markets like Asia, they don't have the distribution. Regulators will be much quicker to take action. And there's also issues around price points, where it's a lot of single-stick markets, etc.
So either Philip Morris or Altria look attractive to you right now?
Altria right now, I mean, I think they're getting no value whatsoever for Juul. I mean, we looked, if you took the Juul value out altogether, it'd be worth around £41. So I don't think there's much more downside from here. On Philip Morris, with the rationale for the deal, we actually wondered whether the reason they're doing this is they have visibility on heated tobacco slowing down internationally, and that's where they did that. And so if there is a risk around that, then I'd be cautious on Philip Morris at current levels.